Hey everyone, it's Corey with Real Filmmaking, and today I wanted to do a video talking about how to get some unique looks out of your Canon camera. Now, the whole inspiration behind this video is recently I've just been shooting with my Canon M50 a little bit more. It's a camera that's very near and dear to my heart. You know, it's kind of the one that got me into filmmaking and photography. And I've just been shooting with it, trying to find some different looks with it, you know, because a lot of these older cameras, it can be really easy to write them off and be like, okay, maybe they don't have the best sensors or they don't have the best specs, and then we just kind of push them aside. But I honestly think there's a lot of life that can still be breathed into these cameras. And the second big inspiration behind this video is I've been really trying to get unique different looks out of this camera, but in a way that kind of streamlines my workflow. And so let me explain. I do videography, filmmaking for work, for freelance. I do a lot of that. Sometimes I will do photography for freelance, like clients and stuff. And so a lot of my working time, working hours is comprised of shooting video or doing photos and editing them and doing all this stuff. And I do enjoy that, but when I'm doing personal stuff, sometimes I don't want to necessarily have this extensive workflow that's added on top of all the other stuff that I'm doing. Like anybody else, you know, will tell you, it's like, yeah, shooting raw will get you the best results, whether it's photography or in video. You know, having so much information to recover details, highlight shadows, push colors around, all that stuff, that's great. But still, in the spirit of wanting to minimize that workflow, because I'm just trying to be present, I take this camera with me, I shoot some clips, I shoot some photos, and then I want those to be memories, things that I can look back on, or drop in a video like this really easy, or, you know, send to family like pictures of something I did this past weekend. I don't want to spend tons and tons of time editing that. I want to find a look that I can essentially make in camera and then just kind of like bake that into the picture or the video. So over the last couple months, I've narrowed it down to a couple things that have really helped me to achieve that kind of straight out of camera look. So when I shoot it, whether it's a photo or a video, it has a lot of the look, the feel, the vibe that I want. So the two big things that I have narrowed down in trying to create that unique look with the camera like the M50 comes down to film simulations, or like your Canon picture style, and the type of lenses that you are using. The film simulation, and you know, if you hear me say that, you're like, you're talking about Canon, not Fuji. A lot of this idea kind of comes from Fuji cameras. You know, one of the things that I admire about Fuji users, maybe I'm slightly envious of, is that option to shoot with baked in JPEGs that look really good. I have a friend that has a Fuji, and you know, he's let me take a couple shots with it, and he's shown me some of the stuff that he's gotten, and man, it's so nice to get like 90% of the look that you want like right there, you know, and you can tweak your film recipes and your film simulations. And so for Canon cameras, we don't exactly have the same thing, but we have these things called picture styles. And a few months ago, I did a video talking about Thomas Franson. He's an awesome creator here. You should check him out. I'll throw a link in the description. But he has created a handful of Canon, essentially film simulations, mimicking different aspects of film. And he's designed them in a way so that like when you shoot, you know, different things, the picture styles, the film simulations react in different ways. So if you're shooting something like, you know, with a lot of sunlight in the middle of the day, you know, colors react a certain way, your shadows react a certain way. But if you take that same picture style, that film simulation, and you shoot it at like blue hour, shadows react differently, colors react differently. And I think a big part of why they kind of change depending on the setting that you shoot them in is Thomas is doing his best to kind of mimic how actual film behaves in regards to light, color, temperature. And so that has been a really cool thing for me to play around with, and to really get different looks, and to even start thinking like, you know, this sort of scenario would be really cool if I shot it with this film simulation, because I know it handles greens a certain way, or I know that it handles skin tones a certain way, or when there's soft light versus hard light, I think this type of simulation looks better, and vice versa. So that has been a really cool thing that has just opened up a lot of creativity. And the second big factor in getting these unique, distinct looks out of your Canon camera is using vintage glass or vintage kind of glass. I'll explain in just a second. And the big thing about vintage lenses is that they just have a lot of character. Where a lot of lenses today, you know, even something like I'm shooting this video on, like the Sigma 18-35, super well built, very versatile. It's a very sharp image. It's very clean. It's adaptable. I can use it on a variety of different projects. Like I can do it on a YouTube video. I can also shoot it on a documentary. I can use it for product, photography, portraits. Like it can do a lot of stuff. There's sharpness. Some people would say there's clinical sharpness that you can depend on. And I feel like that's kind of the standard for a lot of, you know, Canon's L-series lenses, their high-end RF lenses, the Sony G-Master lenses. You know, a lot of these top-of-the-line lenses, people want that kind of corner-to-corner clinical sharpness. And that has its place. It totally does. But vintage lenses, like I mentioned, they just have character. You know, they might be really sharp in the middle, but then kind of fall off a little bit on the sides. They might handle light in a different way. You know, there might be like light leaks. They might flare really heavy. The contrast might be slightly different if you're shooting at f1.4 versus like f4. You know, there's just different things with these lenses. And, you know, shooting with this Canon M50 lens for the last, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months, it's been really interesting again to try different scenarios and see like what is this lens going to do in this situation, what's it going to do in this situation. And because of that, there's just like this special character to these lenses that I can't fully quantify. You know, some people say like they give you almost like a filmic look, which is funny because it's like, I mean, there were lenses designed to be shot with cameras that shot film, so it's like it kind of makes sense. And, you know, it feels like a big trend. Everybody's trying to chase film, looking for this organic look. But they definitely give you a really distinct look. So along with vintage lenses, I also mentioned like vintage-like lenses. You know, this is like a 7 Artisans lens, and 7 Artisans is one of the companies that they make a lot of manual lenses. They do make some autofocus lenses, but companies like them and TT Artisans, they make these modern, you know, vintage lenses, you know, really nice, like focus throw, sometimes declicked apertures. They're very nice to shoot with. And again, it's a similar thing that I was describing. They just have a difference, like a character about them that I can't really describe, you know. There's certain situations where it's like, I want it to feel more organic, and I don't need everything to be razor sharp. I want something that feels, it just feels like more real. Like it feels true to life in some ways. And I'm not saying that you can't achieve like a true to life feeling with any of those lenses that I mentioned, like the pro lenses, but there's just something different about a lens like this little 7 Artisan. So with the Canon film simulations and shooting with these vintage lenses or these modern vintage lenses, I feel like it's really streamlined my personal workflow for videos and photos. I feel like I can enjoy it a lot more. And I think I've mentioned this before, but when I'm doing photography, like I'm shooting in JPEG. I know people are like, whoa, what's going on? But I'm shooting in JPEG, not really doing a ton of editing. So literally I can take the picture, pull onto my phone, send it to a friend or family and be like, oh yeah, that was really like fun. We went and did that. And I can have the look just baked in. And it's been really good for me. I feel like it's like re-energized me doing photography and filmmaking just for myself personally. And it's just been fun to breathe life into this Canon M50, you know, this older camera that I love, and, you know, kind of give it a second lease on life. So I'd love to hear, you know, if you've got an older Canon camera, or if you have tried any of these Canon film simulations that I've talked about, definitely check them out. Thomas Franson, awesome. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've tried that out, have you tried using your Canon cameras with some of these older vintage lenses, these modern vintage lenses? What's been your experience with that? Let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you found this video helpful, encouraging, inspiring. And until next time, keep making movies and watching movies, and I'll see you on Real Filmmaking.